Join me today as we talk about the Tesla thing is getting way overblown. Senator Schumer is doubling down on the stuff that he's talking about. The JFK files, it might be a big nothing burger, the auto pen, and the pyramids of Giza. There's a lot more than meets the eye. Stick around. You just might learn something. Welcome to the Eric T Conversation. I'm Eric T. Well, today is going to be a short one for me. I have to leave this weekend to go to South Carolina to go visit my nephew and the rest of my family because my nephew is attending the Citadel. And this weekend is their no more plebe weekend, I guess, where they come and join the ranks of the regular cadets there, and they no longer get treated like doggy doo-doo all day, day, and got to like run all over the place. So I'm very excited about that. We come from a big military family. He's the first one to ever attend a military academy school. Very excited for him. I get emotional every time I start talking about him or see pictures of him in his uniform. It just really gets me. I'm really, really proud of him. So I can't wait to get to do that. So that's very exciting. I don't really have much of an observation today. Just, basically get along, people. Things are going absolutely nuts. Teslas are still on fire. It's getting to the point where it's almost, I guess, like a terrorism or something. I've seen videos of somebody actually walking up to a Tesla Cybertruck, put their hands in the back of their pants, dig out their human feces while they're standing there. They didn't like do it in the corner in a bag or something and wipe their butt. They literally walked up, digging it out, and it's on camera and wiping the door handles of the Tesla with his feces. What's wrong with these people? And I saw another video of somebody else walking up to a Tesla, looked around, didn't see anybody looking, starts keying the side of the vehicle. I don't think these people understand. Teslas have cameras all over them. They're recording you in the act of doing all of these things. It's crazy that the tolerant left is so intolerant, which is mind-boggling. They are attacking Elon Musk's vehicles because he's saving our country tax dollars. I get it. If you want to boycott, that's the American way, right? We don't want to get involved with something. We boycott it. A couple years ago, when the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing came out, and Americans didn't like what Budweiser was doing, and the right said we're going to boycott Bud Light. And I did a podcast on that about a month or so ago. And Bud Light really hasn't recovered from the boycott, but we boycotted Bud Light. We just stopped buying it. That's it. Oh, Kid Rock like blew up a whole bunch of them on video, but we just stopped buying it. We didn't go start vandalizing Budweiser vehicles. Nobody went to the distributor companies and start vandalizing those, or going to supermarkets and liquor stores and start vandalizing all the products in the liquor stores that were selling these things. We just stopped buying them. Target, when Target had all the trans stuff in their kid clothing, we boycotted that. And then that cost them money. That's what you do. You just boycott it. That's the right way to do things in protest. You don't go throwing Molotov cocktails inside dealerships' windows. You don't vandalize someone's vehicle. I don't care what they did to you. I mean, I don't know if you drive a Toyota or a Honda or a Cadillac or whatever it is you drive. That's your car. That's your mode of transportation. Imagine if someone went up to you and just started jacking up your Toyota Prius or jacking up your Chevy Tahoe. And well, those people probably don't even drive those anyway, but you know what I mean. Vandalizing the vehicle that you drive, slashing your tires, doing all the things that the left is constantly doing right now to the Tesla vehicle. It's blowing my mind. It's a guy saving us tax dollars. This is like organized vandalism. And it's sad that this is actually occurring in the United States right now. But that's what the left does. They get pissed off at something and then they destroy it. Just like they destroyed Minneapolis, they destroyed Seattle, and numerous other cities across the United States about 4 or 5 years ago, right? They don't care. They just destroy it. They vandalize stores. They go in there and they steal whatever they want. Now, there are a lot of Democrats that are middle of the road Democrats, regular old Democrats that want everybody to be treated well. They want to help the poor out and things like that. The regular Democrats. There's still some out there, but they have been hijacked by the far left wing of the Democrat Party. And it's getting crazy. It's to the point where the Democrats, if they keep going to where they're going, they're going to be in the teen digits with their approval rating. Yeah, teen digits in approval rating. Right now, it's 27% for Democrat approval. And I don't know why they just keep on doubling down on it. Chuck Schumer was on The View yesterday, and I talked about that earlier, that he was talking about the government should dictate what business owners get to do with their businesses. That's crazy talk. And he was in another interview today talking about how they put in 235 progressive judges right before Trump got in office. You didn't know that, did you? I bet you didn't know that. Last year, they put in about 235 progressive judges. He said that, progressive judges. He didn't say we put in constitutional judges. We put in progressive judges on the bench prior to Trump getting into office. They actually forced a whole bunch of them in December before he actually got sworn in. Why do you think they're doing that? I'll tell you why. Because they want to try to run the country through the bench. They want judges to try to run our country. And that's crazy. There's about 677 federal district court judges. There's a lot of them, a lot. And a lot of them are in D.C. and New York and a lot of blue states. They knew what they were doing. They figured that is their plan B to try to stop Trump any way possible to keep him from pushing through his agenda. They're actually fighting to keep illegal criminals in our country. They're siding with the criminals. And they don't care about your rights or how you feel. They're siding with the criminals to keep them here and not deport them or not send them to the prison in El Salvador to keep them here in the United States. That doesn't make any sense. They're fighting the closure of USAID because they found billions and billions of dollars of fraudulent spending that the president of the United States, who is the chief head honcho of the executive branch of the government, which USAID falls under, he says it's wasteful spending. Just like any CEO of a company. If a CEO looks at your book and he says, you need to cut this out, you need to cut that out, this is wasteful spending, it doesn't matter what you say. It matters what the CEO says, because it ultimately falls on his shoulders for that company if they're going to make money, make a profit or not. And if he sees spending that's out of the realm of logical, they're going to cut it. And that's what Trump's team was doing, taking all that waste out. But they can't handle that. So they get a progressive judge, just like he said, a progressive judge to override some of that. And you guys would understand this stuff right now with the Alien Act of 1798, it is non-judicial. A judge can't rule on it. The Supreme Court already ruled on it, and they said, yeah, it's a lot of power. But if you take that power away at any given point, it can disrupt the fiber of our country. So it has to be allowed. Hopefully, whoever uses that power doesn't abuse it. So you can't have a judge, especially a lower court district judge, rule on something that can't be ruled on. It has been written the way you cannot rule on it. And that's very important for people to understand. So all these judges that are constantly trying to stop this progression of the Trump administration, it's all going to fail. It's ultimately going to fail the Supreme Court. And that's what it's going to go to. It's going to get to the Supreme Court probably very quickly, and it's all going to be overturned. Because Trump just signed, as of this morning or today, the Department of Education is going to be no longer. It is going to be bye-bye. And for all of those people talking about, what about those programs for the handicapped children or the deprived children that don't have access to the other educational products that other schools have? Those types of programs are still going to be there. They are trimming the fat of the Department of Education because the Department of Education doesn't do anything. They really don't. They don't pay the teachers. They don't work on the curriculums. The reason why you know that is because I live in the state of Florida. And the state of Florida, let's say ninth grade. Ninth grade textbook is different than a ninth grade textbook in California, different than a ninth grade textbook in Wyoming, in Maine, Rhode Island. They're all different. If the Department of Education was really handling all of that and doing that, we would all have the same textbook. Some kid in a military family could get transferred from one state to another state and jump right in to the book that he was using, whatever area that he came from, right? But they don't do that. That's not what they do, okay? They're like a progressive part of a teacher's union. That's what they do. That's my opinion, okay? From what I've seen, they don't really do much. I think the states being allowed to have all that funding for themselves means a lot. I think that's great that all the school boards in every state are going to be able to get their money allocated to them directly. And every governor and every Department of Education for the state level will be able to decide what the curriculum and where the money goes to best needed for that state. I don't know why anybody has such a problem with this. And the only reason why, it's Donald Trump doing it. That's why people have a problem with it. But if you actually sat there and thought about it for a minute and pondered it, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Just like getting rid of FEMA and make that funding go directly to the states. You don't think the governor of Florida knows what's best and where to send the funding for aid when we have a hurricane here? And we have them all the time. We're probably the most natural disaster state in the United States. We get hurricanes all the time. There's North Carolina and Texas too. They get some of those as well. But Florida gets a lot of them. We get hit pretty hard. Don't you think the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, should be able to have that money ready to go, whatever he needs, and he should be able to funnel that money out? And then maybe the government could come in and say, okay, we got to oversee that, see what's going on, just make sure there's checks and balances. But the money should be flowing right away. So that's why FEMA doesn't really need to be around. There's a lot of government waste that we have. Our country ran really well before we had all these programs, and they're just wasting our tax dollars. And that's what happens. These things are ran by our tax dollars. So if everybody wants a little bit more in their paycheck, which I'm sure everybody does, why are you complaining so much about them cutting these programs or cutting these departments? Because it's waste. They're not cutting anything that the little lady isn't going to get her Social Security check anymore. My mom's 80 years old. She's still going to get her Social Security check. My dad's still going to get his Social Security check. And I think that's the way they need to do things, to cut off the wasteful spending. So when I turn the age to collect Social Security, which is not far off, that the money would be there for me too. Because the way it's going, it may not be there for me. It may not be there for my kids. And that's what we all pay into. So the government cuts are necessary. Just like the VA. Everybody talks about the VA cuts. Look, they have to cut down some employees. That's okay. I know. And some veterans are going to get caught in the system. And unfortunately, just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you cannot lose your job. If they're going to try their best to keep veterans that are working at the VA system, to try to keep them their jobs or place them in other departments. That's what Doug Collins said. The secretary of the VA said that's what they're trying to do. And I try to take these people on their word. I don't just sit there and say, well, they're lying. They're just constantly lying. I don't know. I believe some things the Biden administration said. I believe some of the things they said, except for now we know it was almost all false. The reason why is they were using an auto pen to sign all these documents. That's strange, isn't it? Very strange. As we start developing and start, moving on with this stuff with the country, you have to start figuring out what's best. There has to be cuts involved with our government because it is overblown and we have a deficit. So we're spending a ton of money, but yet with $36.5 trillion in debt. You can't run your household like that. I mean, if you run out of money in the bank, can you go to the back in the garage and start printing out some more dollar bills? No, you can't do that. But the government, that's essentially what they do. Now, Jerome Powell came out today and he was like, the inflation is like 1.7% growth over the next year. He's like, he doesn't know what to do. And for those that are worried about the Fed numbers, let's be really clear on something. The Fed is not a government agency. They're not a federal agency. They're not. It's a private group of guys from what? Jekyll Island in 1913. Do a little history on that. We'll talk about that maybe in a couple weeks. But yeah, he doesn't know what's going on with these tariffs because the tariffs have never been done in this old man's lifetime. So he doesn't know if it's going to work for the better of us. Right now, a lot of these countries are starting to come to the table and start negotiating just a ceasefire on these tariffs because now the reciprocal tariffs. So if you're charging us 250% on a tariff to bring in your milk, we're going to charge you 250% on tariffs. And eventually, right now, some big countries, they haven't really named a whole lot of them. Some of these big countries are coming to the table and they're saying, you know what? Maybe we should just get rid of tariffs altogether. And yours costs $100, ours costs $100, and it's even Stevens. And that's probably a great idea. And that's what tariffs cause. They cause you to come to the table to negotiate. But we've never had anybody running our government. And it's just not Trump. It's some people that he has there that believe in the system. We haven't had any team in there that actually decided to just do this and see if we can actually make something out of this, because it worked in the, you know, late 1800s. Really worked for our country, where we had more money than we knew what to do with. We actually had to develop some kind of council to figure out how to spend all the money the United States was bringing in from tariffs. I know things are different now, but it's essentially the same thing. If we can bring in a lot of tariff money from these imports that we're bringing in, and it can help us alleviate some of the burden on the taxpayers, I think that's a win for the entire country. And we need to start looking at some of those things and stop being so pissed off at Donald Trump just because the left tells you to hate Donald Trump. You got it. It's to the point where it really is a derangement with these people. And it's not the whole country. A lot of the country supports what's going on, but you got a few of those bad apples and these organizations that they are sitting there and they are organizing, and they are putting together these groups to go out there and vandalize, destroy property, complain, get on people's TikToks, get on people's social media, bash them. It's organized. Chaos is what it is. And you have to see through that fog and start focusing more on what's better for me and my family in the long run. What's better? No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, right? Get rid of their IRS. Those things are great for our country. And I think that moves our country in the right direction, because right now things are chaotic, and we're looking into this. And the more we start looking into the previous administration, they're finding that things just really aren't on the up and up. Like I said, the auto pen was an issue. I saw Alan Dershowitz's video that he put out earlier today, and he was talking about the auto pen. I think we said Thomas Jefferson used the auto pen, but back then the auto pen, it was called the polygraph. Yeah, not the lie detector, but an actual polygraph. And when he signed a document, it was a chain of pens that were on a cable. And when he signed it, it was his signature signing multiple documents at one time. That's essentially what the auto pen was. And then now we have an auto pen now where our president is signing pardons, signing other type of documents, when he, in fact, according to the Constitution, he should be there to sign them. It says, the key word that was in part of this phrasing, it says, he shall sign it. That means he shall. Shall is a pretty good word, right? He shall. It's not like he will or he may. He shall sign it. So that right there tells you that he probably needs to sign those type of documents. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's probably going to go up to the Supreme Court. You know, Donald Trump's really proud of his signature. I don't know how many times he's used auto pen, but I'm sure it wasn't for pardons or for legislation or things like of that nature. Maybe to sign some certificates or some, presidential letters that they're sending out to people. But again, Donald Trump has a real nice signature, man. He likes to sign his own documents. It's kind of a pride thing with him. So we'll see what happens with all that. But as we can tell, we don't know who was running our country the last 4 years. So if it was ran by committee, and they are going to find out who was doing it. They will find out. It may take a little while, but we're going to find out who was running our country for the past 4 years under the Biden administration, because it wasn't Joe Biden. And those people are looking at some serious court fines, because once we find them, they're going to prosecute those people, because they can't do that. You can't run a country and you're an unelected official. That's not how it works, right? The president is the only person that's voted on by the entire nation. The only position. You can't just walk in there because you got an old man that doesn't know what he's doing and just start taking over and put a little machine in front of him and say, hey, Papa Joe, sign that. And you just start signing shit. You can't do that. It's going to be interesting what's going to happen over the next couple of years, but I promise you they're going to find out. The JFK files, the whole nothing burger right there. We still don't know what's going on with that. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. There's 80,000 documents. People are loading them into AI programs to try to decipher and put keywords in there, try to pop things out of it. Who knows? I think a lot of stuff we already know. We already know probably the CIA had something to do with, or, the Israelis have something to do with. Who knows? But there's a lot of information that's already out there that we probably already know. We just need a confirmation of it. And for those that say, I don't really care about that. You know what? It's American history, and it's really strange American history. And I think we should find that out. So hopefully over the next couple of weeks, when everybody gets all those 80,000 pages deciphered, we'll actually find the truth, exactly what happened. And we may not, I don't know why people would keep around documents that would incriminate anybody. You should light those on fire and get rid of them. But Our government seems to like to keep these stuff in a vault somewhere, and that's kind of weird in itself. Some really cool news came out. There's interesting archaeologist discoveries just came out yesterday. The pyramids of Giza, apparently, what they're telling us is that they are massive structures underneath the ground. Incredible. About 2 kilometers below the Earth's surface are these pyramids. And there's all kinds of 8 different pillars under the ground. Like, they have these sonars that are able to penetrate deep into the Earth's surface. And whatever they came up with, they were able to draw 3D renderings of all of these images and these pillars and these mechanisms and these towers and these platforms that are under the ground. So the pyramids, a lot of people, they even thought that the pyramid is the top of these objects, and they go 2-something miles under the ground. So that's pretty interesting information right there. And there's a lot of speculation on, can they excavate those? I don't know. That's a lot to excavate, but they're talking about doing that and seeing if they get Egypt to give them permission to do that, because it is a massive discovery if in fact this is all real. But these new sonars that they develop are able to come up with these images, and it's crazy what they're talking about these things were probably used for. Maybe a weapon of mass destruction or a huge energy weapon that these pyramids were. They weren't just tombs for the pharaohs. That's news. Those are all kind of interesting things that are coming out. So see what happens in the next few weeks about that information. But that's mind-blowing right now. So maybe it wasn't humans that built them after all by pushing them up, an incline of 10 degrees by spraying grape juice or wine down to make it slick and using slave labor to do that. Maybe it was aliens. Who knows? Well, that's it for today. Join me next time for a little chit-chat, some observation, and some good old-fashioned conversation. Like, subscribe, pass it to a friend. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks.